The Atlanta Braves lose on Wednesday and officially have a rotation problem. Let's talk about it. Yes, welcome on in to Braves Today for Thursday, June 26th. Your source of news, notes, and updates on your Atlanta Braves. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby. You can follow me on social media at Crosby Baseball. You can follow the show on X, Braves_today. We have a Facebook page and an Instagram as well. And you can find all of my written work, bravestoday.com. That's the Braves Today Substack, as this is both a podcast and a newsletter. A lot of stuff to get to from yesterday. Braves lose Game 3. Didier Fuentes gets shelled. We need to talk about that. The comments from Brian Snitker about Fuentes making another start. And what options Atlanta has going forward for the rotation, both if they do and if they don't make a move externally to bring somebody in. But looking at this game from last night, I don't want to go into super deep detail on this one. Almost all of us watched it, right? But the thing that obviously undid Atlanta was a 5-run fourth inning where Didier Fuentes just could not seem to get guys to miss pitches. He ends up going 3 1/3 with 8 hits, 6 runs, no walks, 1 strikeout. And it's funny, only 2 of those runs come on homers, right? He gives up a solo shot to Ronnie Mauricio to open the 3rd inning. And then he gives up a solo shot to Juan Soto to open the 4th inning. But after that, hit by pitch, double, sac fly, single, they lift him. And all but I think one of those hits, or in the hit by pitch, came on the fastball. And the real issue for Didier Fuentes, and if you remember when we broke down what he does well, we talked about he has that fastball with a lot of induced vertical break. It's a really good pitch. He didn't really trust the splitter, but then he had the slider and the curveball to go with it. He didn't throw the splitter once last night, so he's a 3-pitch guy. And against righties, he was a 2-pitch guy. He didn't throw a single curveball to righties. All 8 of his curveballs came to lefties. So he was exactly 62% fastball to both righties and lefties. The rest of that usage against righties was all the slider. And against lefties, it was 23% slider, 15% curveball. So if you're a righty, it is very clear you're getting fastball, slider. And as a high-induced vertical break pitch, he's used to throwing that fastball up in the zone. And you could see that, okay, I didn't love the game calling that I saw from Drake Baldwin, but some of that too may have just been, turns out I didn't love the execution from Didier Fuentes. Baldwin was trying to get the fastball down in the zone, and Fuentes just wasn't very good at doing it. It's very likely that because that pitch is so good up in the zone, he uses it up there all the time, and he very rarely throws it down. And so because of that, he either struggled from a physical perspective to actually hit those spots, or he struggled from a mechanical perspective, or from a mental perspective, to accept, I got to throw this pitch down. So Fuentes really struggled there. We saw the limited pitch mix, and he just ended up not fooling anybody on the fastball. He threw 46 of them. They swung at 29. He got only 3 whiffs and 4 called strikes. It's a 15% CSW on the fastball and a 15% overall. Just terrible numbers. 14 foul balls, 12 fastballs put into play. Just Fuentes was unable to make anything happen here. He used the fastball in the zone a bunch, 65% of the time. They swung at it a bunch, and they made contact almost every time it was in the zone. They didn't swing a lot out of the zone. They didn't really chase it, but when they did, they still made contact 83% of the time out of the zone. So, just here's the thing. Didier Fuentes, the stuff is good. In a vacuum, the stuff is good. But as you can expect from a guy who just turned 20 years old and started the year in high A, he's just not as comfortable with the sequencing and everything that's required to make all of that stuff work at the major league level. He's not. And we're in a situation where it is very likely that he needs to go back down and work for a while. Brian Snitker was asked after the game if he'd commit to Fuentes making another start, and he would not. Like, he would not say, yeah, we're going to run him back out there again. And obviously, that decision goes hand in hand with Alex Anthopoulos, right? Snit doesn't make the decision by himself, but he really needs to be back in Gwinnett or in Columbus or somewhere, continuing to develop. It's a great story. He got a chance to see what he can and can't do. And we've seen Atlanta pull the plug on some of these experiments after 2 starts. There's a whole group of guys last year that made 2 starts for Atlanta and then got sent back down. Alan Winans made 2 starts. Hurston Waldrop made 2 starts. Darius Vines made 2 starts. Ray Kerr made 2 starts. Now, if I remember right, Waldrop was optioned down and then they discovered the injury, so he went onto the injured list. But he was going to be optioned down after the second start. Ray Kerr I think he was sent back down, or the injury, whatever. Point is, like, Waldrop was sent back down. There were multiple guys who they tried them twice in the rotation. It didn't work out. They sent them down and moved on. And I would not be shocked if that's what the Braves did with Fuentes. A lot of credit here in yesterday's game goes to Aaron Bummer and Austin Cox, because those 2 guys came in. Again, Bummer came in the 4th inning. He had pitched once in the last 10 days. He pitches 2 2/3 scoreless innings, didn't let it get any worse, and more importantly, saved the rest of the pen for Atlanta. He pitched 2 2/3. I think he threw 35 pitches, which is actually pretty good pitch count for, in essence, 3 innings. Just over around 10, 11 pitches an inning. And then Austin Cox pitched the final 2 hits, 1 run, 3 strikeouts. Did give up a solo shot. The second homer by Juan Soto. But you can't continue to run Fuentes back out there. They got to make a move. And I'm a bit surprised, as of time of recording on Thursday morning, we have not yet heard a transaction that Atlanta is making. Typically, I would have expected them to have done it after the game last night, but they didn't announce the move yet. They did option down Austin Cox. They sent him down last night, called Michael Peterson up. They did not send down Fuentes. So I'm really curious to see what happens. I do think you're going to see a little bit of rotation manipulation going forward between now and the All-Star break. You may not actually need a 5th starter that much. There's a couple different things you can do, whether it's bullpen games, maybe a call-up here or there, but you've got options here. We'll talk about that next, right here on Braves Today. Welcome back to Braves Today. Lindsay Crosby. I want to talk about what Atlanta is going to have to do with the rotation. Because, again, they did not option down Fuentes last night, but it feels like it's coming. Okay? And if they do that, if they do send Fuentes down, like, you've got a couple options for starts, none of them are really that exciting. So the guy who would be lined up to make the start would be Hurston Waldrop. He started on Tuesday night, allowed 3 runs, 2 earned, and 5 2/3 innings against Norfolk, which is Baltimore's organization. So he would be lined up to start Game 1 versus the Angels at home on Tuesday. Waldrop's one of those guys that got a brief bit of time last year and was not very good at all. And it was the control. It was the walks. And when you look at Waldrop this year, I talked a little bit earlier about how he had changed his mechanics and he had adjusted what he was doing as far as the size of his leg kick and all of the size of his movements. and how his control seemed to be a little bit better after he did that. He made that change at the beginning of May after he had an outing where he didn't get out of the first inning against Nashville. And after that, he reeled off 5 consecutive starts of at least 5 innings. 2 of them he went 6. 2 of them were quality starts. His ERA was under 4. He allowed 12 earned runs in 27 2/3 innings with 35 strikeouts and only 3 homers. So you love to see that. After that, he got blown up by Nashville again. That seems to be his team he can't figure it out. He got blown up by Nashville for 6 runs on 2 hits and 4 walks while recording 1 out. That was June 8th. Now, since then, he had a 6-inning effort, 1 run, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts against Memphis, a quality start there, and he had the one I just mentioned against Norfolk. So on the year in AAA, he does have these 2 blow-ups. He has a 5.60 ERA because of those 2 blow-ups, right? Those 2 multiple runs allowed, not getting out of the first. And it's something where he's better against lefties than righties. Righties are hitting 294 off of him. Lefties are hitting 238. So it's a 777 OPS by righties. It's a 642 OPS against lefties. As you can see, this is not a super appealing option for Atlanta, right? Can they call him up? Yes. Do I expect him to immediately thrive at the major league level? No. Because even some of the other situations for him, he really seems to struggle. Base is empty. He's good. 212 batting average allowed. 569 OPS. You put runners on base, he's allowing a batting average of 339 with an 893 OPS. Like, he's given up 4 home runs this year. 3 of them have come with runners on bases, despite it being 15 plate appearances different between the 2 situations. 3/4 of all of his homers have come with runners on base. And some of that is he's putting them on base. He's allowing walks. So could you call up Herson Waldrop? You absolutely could call up Herson Waldrop. It really feels like it's not going to go well. Honestly, at some point in time, it might be by the end of this year, it might be next year, I think they're going to pull the plug on Waldrop and move him into the bullpen. When you look at the number of walks that he's allowing, his last 4 starts, he's allowed 12 walks against 14 strikeouts. Now, again, right after the mechanics changes, he had some great outings. 2 walks, 10 strikeouts, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts, and a quality start. 3 walks, 6 strikeouts, and a quality start. But he's regressed a little bit. After he's good for 2 or 3 blow-ups a year here. So I don't know what they do with Herson Waldrop. I feel like they're not going to want to go to him for that next start. But he is who is lined up to make that next start against the Angels next week. The guy who they probably should actually use to do it is Nathan Wiles. We've seen him in 1 relief appearance in Atlanta, 4 hits, 3 runs in the 9th inning against the Cardinals at home. But outside of that, he's pitched to a 2.92 ERA in Gwinnett. 13 starts, 18 walks to 67 strikeouts in 71 innings. And when you look at his game-by-game numbers, he's on a heater right now. Okay? His last start by Charlotte, against Charlotte, in Charlotte, by the way, 7 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, no walks to 6 strikeouts. He has a couple starts where he allowed 4 runs, and I think it's going to be a lot more variable here, right? You have a good ceiling, right? Against Nashville in May, he struck out 11 with no walks across 6 innings. But he's also got outings where he walked 4 against Nashville again in 5 2/3 with 3 runs allowed, only 1 was earned. Welcome to minor league defense. He has outings, what was it, against Charlotte to open this series. He pitched twice against Charlotte in this last week. To open the series against Charlotte, 4 runs on 6 hits with no walks and no strikeouts. So it's really variable here. But at this point, it feels like that's going to be your option. Now, the question's going to be, for me, if you go with Nathan Wiles, do you call him up now and let him maybe work out of the bullpen once before he starts? Because he pitched on the 22nd. So he pitched on Sunday, and he hasn't pitched since then. So if you're holding him for the next week for Tuesday, that's a long time to not get into a game. Yeah, he's throwing bullpens, but you're still in a situation where you probably need to have him either do some major league bullpens or pitch out of the pen once over the weekend against Philly at home before you then use him in a game on Tuesday. They did this with Grant Holmes in the opening week. Remember, he pitched an inning of scoreless relief in San Diego and then made his start against LA in the second series of the year. So that's probably who they go with. Davis Daniel is also on the 40-man roster. He's also been pretty variable recently. His last 3 starts, significant discrepancy in the actual runs and the earned runs. Again, welcome to minor league baseball. 12 runs, 10 earned on 21 hits in 15 innings with 11 walks and 9 strikeouts. I like Davis Daniel. I've met him personally. I liked him before I met him personally, but he's still a work in progress right now. He has great outings in this group. He has back-to-back quality starts against Jacksonville and Nashville, where he went 13 innings with a combined 6 hits and 2 runs, 2 walks, 13 strikeouts. But then he has this recent streak where he struggled. He pitched against Norfolk yesterday, on Wednesday. 5 runs on 7 hits and 4 1/3 with 6 walks and 2 strikeouts. I like Davis Daniel as a person. I think this stuff is I think there's some stuff there. He's not ready to make a major league start for Atlanta. They used him in relief back in April in Arizona, and he gave them a scoreless inning of relief with 1 strikeout and 1 hit by pitch. I think, if I remember right, he erased the hit by pitch with a double play because he only had 3 at-bats in that game, 3 batters faced. But, oh no, sorry, he did have 4 batters faced, that's right. The guy stole second, that's right. But, point is, Davis Daniel, I don't think you can count on him. Ian Anderson not only has been bad, he's also on the injured list right now. We don't know why, for the record. I have no clue why he's on the injured list. I have not seen anybody discuss why, but he is on the injured list. But even before that, his most recent start last week against Charlotte was 5 runs on 2 hits and 4 walks in 2/3 of an inning. And over his last, over his last 6 starts, I clicked the wrong thing there. Over his last 6 starts, he has pitched 23 innings. He has walked 23 batters. He's good for a walk, an inning, in just about every single start. On average. It's not actually that way, right? He had to start with 5 innings and 2 walks, and then he had 4 walks and 2/3 of an inning. But on average, he's good for a walk every single inning. He struck out less than he walked on the season. It's just, since he rejoined Atlanta, I know we all love the name Ian Anderson. We love the idea of Ian Anderson. Since he's been in the organization, he has more walks than strikeouts. 27 walks, 26 strikeouts in 31 innings. He's allowed 21 runs. It's a 6.10 ERA with Atlanta. The OPS here is 797. He's only allowed 2 homers. You can make it work with a lot of walks. Look at what Blake Snell does. Blake Snell would rather walk you than give you a pitch you can hit for damage. But Blake Snell's also been very good at missing bats and getting strikeouts, and Ian Anderson's not that guy. He's not on the 40-man. He's on the injured list. He's been bad since he rejoined the organization. Ian Anderson's not going to make a start. He's probably, of these 4 guys, he's probably 4th on the pecking order, and I would be willing to bet they would do other options before they considered calling him up. He's been that bad. Let's talk about what Atlanta might do from here, right? Do they try to use a reliever as a starter a little bit? Do they make a signing? Do they make a trade? We'll chat about some of those options next, right here on Braves Today. If Atlanta's trying to figure out what to do outside of those names that I mentioned for starts, because again, you know you need a starter for July 5th. And the next week when that spot comes through, you're close enough to the trade deadline. You're close enough to the All-Star break where you could maybe go with a bullpen game, or you might need to use that starter again. So what are your options here? And I think there's a couple things you could do. I think the first option you would have is if you use the personnel that's in Atlanta. I actually put this in the Today's Three Things last night. My just crazy unhinged idea that Atlanta could do, if nothing else just to get value from the contract, is use Aaron Bummer as a once through the order opener twice a week. You let him go in front of Bryce Elder and start and be an opener with the goal of making it 2-3 innings, and then use him once in a bullpen game. And just let Aaron Bummer, he's not a starter. You're not going to stretch him out as a starter, but you can let him pitch 2 2/3 innings, 3 innings, try to get that done twice a week. If you look at what he did last night, 3 hits, no runs, 2 strikeouts. He faced 11 batters, 2 2/3 innings, took him 35 pitches, right? There's no reason that a reliever can't do 35 pitches twice a week. That is equivalent to a shorter start. Now, do you have to plan those out, and do you end up with not really being able to use him outside of that? Or if you have to call on him in an emergency situation, you then have to figure out that next start? Yes. But you don't have to use him in front of Bryce Elder. It just feels like minimizing how many times Bryce Elder goes through the order would be nice. And so if you had to use him off schedule and not have him for that Bryce Elder start, not a big deal. I do think that's something they could do. I doubt Atlanta does that. They don't really love to use the opener concept. Atlanta's done the bullpen game before. They've never really done the opener concept, though, right? Where they just like to just say, hey, this guy's going to get an opener before he comes in. They're just not big fans of that. So probably not going to do it. If you look at, we've already talked about the starters in AAA. We didn't necessarily talk about which starters could get called up from Lucas Braun's probably number 1. Blake Burkhalter's probably number 2. But there are some relievers who are making starts, and they haven't always been great, but they've been making starts, right? This is something where Royber Salinas is there on a rehab assignment. He can be a starter after that. Zach Thompson is 0-3 with a 3.52 ERA. A 5.52 ERA. Big difference in those two, by the way. Sorry about that. Jose Suarez, the former reliever from the Angels, he is 0-1 with a 4.24 ERA in 5 starts. He also went on the 7-day IL, and again, we don't know why. So he might not be an option immediately. Old friend Jackson Stevens. He pitched on Friday night. It's been almost a week. His turns should be coming back up soon for Gwinnett. He went 4 innings, no runs, no hits, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, 67 pitches, 6 swinging strikes, 2 ground balls, 1 fly ball, was just getting a bunch of punch outs against Charlotte. So maybe that's something where they try him as a bulk guy. You combine him and Aaron Bummer, and you're hopefully getting through 6-7 innings. And from there, it's just your standard bullpen. Maybe there's something like that. Maybe you go outside of the organization to find somebody. I still think, I talked about this, I believe it was last week. Kyle Gibson is a free agent. Was signed by Baltimore to start the season. He signed later in spring, spent a little bit of time in AAA to get ready. Made 4 starts for Baltimore and was bad. 0-3, 16.78 ERA, 12 a third innings, 10 strikeouts, walked 7. They cut him. The Orioles, who need pitching this bad, cut him completely. He signed with Tampa Bay and went to AAA. And in AAA, he's been really good, actually. 4 starts, he went 1-0 with a 0.52 ERA. The only run he allowed was in the very first start. 1 run on 4 hits in 3 innings with 1 walk and 2 strikeouts against Memphis. After that, 4 1/3 scoreless against Jacksonville. 4 hits, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. That's Miami, by the way. Memphis is St. Louis. Jacksonville is Miami. Charlotte is the White Sox. He goes 5 scoreless against Charlotte. 2 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts. And then 5 scoreless with a win against Omaha, which is Kansas City. 2 hits, 2 walks, 8 strikeouts. He went ahead and opted out after that start because they had not called him up. And as far as I understand, he has not yet signed with anybody else. So he is a free agent. You could sign him, and he hit 88 pitches in that last start. Again, it was the 18th. It was 8 days ago. He's probably able to make a start as soon as next week. I would imagine if they signed him today, they signed him on Thursday, I would imagine they could probably start him next Tuesday at home against the Angels if they wanted. That could be his organizational debut. You bring him in, you have him throw a bullpen. Maybe they do before they sign him. And then you start him on Tuesday against the Angels. So that's a short-term fix that you can make from outside the organization that doesn't require a reliever to make a start. Outside of that, it feels like you probably have to make a trade here. Oh, no, actually, hang on. Back up. Spencer Turnbull was just designated for assignment by the Blue Jays. If Toronto is willing to make a deal with Atlanta, this may be a cash considerations option that they go pick up. I've always liked Lorenzen. He can be both a reliever and a starter. He had a 2.65 ERA and a 3-0 record for Philly last year. 58 strikeouts and 54 1/3 innings. 7 starts, 17 total appearances. So he worked as a bulk man. He worked as a starter. I've always liked him. I thought they should have signed him in the offseason. He's one of those guys that I've said, hey, you probably should have come in and picked him up. He started 1 game for Toronto. He worked in relief twice. He was better as a reliever than a starter. A lot of guys are. But he is an option out there for a cash considerations deal. You can go grab him. Outside of that, and we've talked about this a little bit, right? You're in a scenario where you need to figure out, do you make a trade? I put a poll out last night during the game. Would you rather trade for Andrew Heaney and David Bednar from the Pirates? So you get Bednar for your bullpen, you get Heaney for your rotation. Or would you rather trade with Baltimore for Charlie Morton and Ramon Laureano? Because Laureano can play all 3 outfield positions, including center field. And so, you would get a veteran for your rotation. Heaney and Bednar was the number 1 answer. 49.7% of respondents wanted him. Why not both trades was number 2 at 30%, and then Morton and Laureano was 3rd at 19%. So I would expect sometime between now and Monday, the off day, Atlanta makes some sort of acquisition here, right? Because again, I spent 15 minutes going over this. No good options in Gwinnett right now for a start. You don't need a guy more than twice between now and the All-Star break, and really only for sure once. Maybe you can get through that second one with a bullpen game, given how close you are to the All-Star break. But you really only need 1, maybe 2 starts out of this guy. But you got to do something, right? You can't leave Fuentes back in there and let him start again, knowing that this is not the offense who can cover up for him. So I'm anticipating sometime before that Tuesday start against the Angels, we know what this move is. Really curious to see what it'll be. Do me a favor, if you're listening on audio, leave a 5-star review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube Music. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when we do tomorrow's live show. We're doing the Friday live show on the 27th. It's going to be at noon Eastern. Going to be tons of fun. I want to take your questions, talk about all kind of news and stuff for the Braves, everything from the draft, all of that. So again, hit the notification bell, be here at noon on Friday so that we can talk Atlanta Braves and I can answer your questions. Until next time, this has been Braves today.